Well, let's just go over to Cyberpunk then, because I thought we talked about it last week on the podcast. I thought it was like that was it. Like we weren't going to hear it. It wasn't going to get any worse, and somehow it got real bad. I have no idea how the bar fell that low. That was wild stuff all week. Every day something new was coming out about this game. We got to the point where it was delisted from Sony's own storefront, and Microsoft had to release a statement. Best Buy's taking the game back now up until Monday, I believe, 21st. So, and if not there, then you can go right to CD Projekt and they'll give your money back. I don't know if you have to mail them the game. I don't know how that works. But they're basically everything any way to get your money back if you're not happy with the purchase. And a lot of that has to do with the PS4 and the Xbox One base consoles, because like on the PS5 it crashes a lot and there are a lot of bugs. But my playthrough, because I played through it once, I have a little over 27 hours now in it, and I had some of the weirdest glitches and it crashed about 10 times, but the frame rate is like I'd say in the 50s most time. So it's at least been smooth enough to play. It doesn't look great all the time. In fact, sometimes it looks pretty bad. And I think that's just because it's basically the PS4 version being played on the PS5. But for what it is, it's at least playable.
That's one thing we need to be perfectly clear on. There is no PS5 version. There is no.
This is
Xbox
not a cross-gen game.
This is not a cross-gen game. There's a cross-gen patch coming, and honestly, that's the thing I bitched about it in my video today. That's the thing that pisses me off so much. Seeing CD Projekt Red say the older consoles, seeing even Microsoft and Xbox supports thing saying the game doesn't run well on older consoles. No, fuck you. There is no older console. This is the console that you designed the game for. The game was supposed to come out before the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X even came out. The last date we had was back in April. The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X were not available on the marketplace. I mean, it's just that's what brings my piss to a boil with this. It's just like, shut up. Like, stop trying to shift the blame. Just say, yeah, you know what? We rushed this game out. We tried to make shareholders happy. And yes, it's not the developers' fault. The developers are sitting there making the game. They're being told, you need to have this game ready. If they say the game's not ready, the company says, I don't give a fuck. We need to get this game ready. And they push the game out there.
Yep. It feels that way too. Like when you play it, doesn't it feel that way? That there's things missing, things just don't work.
Yes, definitely.
There's just huge gaps in what you would assume would be very in-depth systems, and even the systems that aren't there don't play together very nicely. They just don't mesh together very well. Like Kelly Plaguey's review when she said I didn't feel the need to go into all this stuff that she got all that hate for. I think that speaks very clearly to the state that this game was in, where you could go through huge chunks of this game and forget certain systems were even in there because the game is not trying to push you toward them at any point.
Encourage you, right? Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, and I think that's just a lack of that lack of direction comes from, I think, them just getting whatever they could make work into this game and then taking everything else out and then just shipping what they had. Yeah, it really feels that way. That's speculation, but it feels that way.
The crafting system, I barely touched.
Never used it. I'm grateful. I've only played about 10 hours or so, but I've never used the crafting system.
Well, I started using it towards the end because I started getting the right materials to do it, and you start assembling guns and all this stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, I can make this, and then I look at it and I'm like, the gun I have now is better than the gun I'd craft. So I'm like, I don't really know
direction with the up.
I was gonna say they don't really walk you through a lot of stuff. You have to figure it out yourself or get help from people around you.
I think the menu systems in general are.
Go ahead. Jim.
It's some of this. It's the most stuff that holds this game back is how they structured where stuff is in the menus, how to get through the menus, how to navigate. One of the biggest pet peeves I need when I'm playing a game with an open world, I need a good, clear map that tells me what things are. And half the time, you cannot tell, aside from a main story mission or a non-main story mission, what the missions are, especially if you just get something and you can't remember what that person's name just said, and you'll be shifting through all these things, which one is it? You can go through the text messages and then find a link to get to where that mission is, but it doesn't tell you that, so you can spend half that time, or you can spend 3-4 times that amount looking for it in the overworld. It didn't clearly establish where and what to do for the side stuff. For the main stuff, to push you through the main story of the game, it pushes you through that. It's go here, go here, go here, go here. To do all the other stuff, which is better than the main story, it's all just whatever. It's you figure it out. And I think that was one of the biggest blows, because when I got to the area, I was doing a good mix of side stuff in the main story. But when you get to an area of the game at not too far in roughly, and it says, hey, this is it. You get to this point, this is the last mission, you can't do anything else. And I'm like, already? I've done like 5 story missions. Like, what do you mean it's at the end already?
You can beat this game easily in less than 20 hours.
Yeah.
15. Yeah. Easy.
15. Yeah,
I think you can do it because I was doing side stuff too, and I beat the game in 22 hours. I actually had quite a bit of side stuff, and I ended up getting to the end, and I was definitely stronger than everything around me.
I completed multiple side people story missions by 15 hours and getting to the final mission.
I even had the double jump ability, and I was going in, and and you get that ability, and the game like invites you to break it basically with double jump.
But the game,
really funny.
the extended game, everything else besides the main story, like all the other stuff you can find in the world, is great. There's some awesome lore. There's some really interesting
There's some good
stories
ideas there. Yeah.
There's crazy stuff. Like, I'll give this example I was telling you guys before. I just happened upon a dead body that had a talking gun. It had an AI built into this gun. You just find it. You have a whole conversation with it. And as it's updating and learning to what it wants to do, I won't say what the gun does or doesn't do, but the gun, aside from talking, just starts humming Disturbia by Rihanna without any explanation. And it does it multiple times. It goes bum bum beat 'em. It just keeps doing that. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm glad this made it into the game than some of the fixes, but it's the cool stuff like that. The outer stuff you can find is great. It's fantastic.
They focus on some of the weirdest parts of this game, and then they left alone the most obvious things they should have worked on. Because it's really weird.
You know what I think? I think the super long development cycle hurt the game because they felt like, they probably saw all these other games doing things that were coming out throughout the years and like, oh, we want to add something like this. Oh, it'd be cool to do this. And you just get so many ideas and the scope of the project. And obviously it was a large scope project, but the scope of the project just continues to grow and grow and grow. And now you got to worry about this, that, and the other thing. So
someone
almost too ambitious.
Yeah. Someone in there in that studio.
Do you think that's one of the weird things with this game is that people keep saying, oh, it's this long development cycle. It was announced in 2012. This game didn't enter active development until like 2016.
2016, yeah.
But there's still something there to it. Go ahead, MVG.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, The Witcher 3 was a very big game, right? Like everything I've heard is saying that The Witcher 3 is a much larger game than Cyberpunk. So, I mean, they should be used to making these large games by now.
Here's what I think threw them off. It's because it's in first person.
Absolutely.
So everything has to be a higher level of detail because you're so close to everything. Where like if this was third person and you're pulled back in the camera, like in The Witcher, you could get away with like someone not having markings on the inside, like on their palm, on their hand, with the hand, like, you know what I mean? Like they don't have to worry about that. Whereas here you're so close, every little detail. Like you walk around the city and there are so many parts that have unnecessary amounts of stuff there, whether it's posters on the wall or interactions they set up because you're so close to them, that I'm like, they tried to go way too, like Sean said, ambitious here. And somebody in there in CD Projekt Red didn't know when to say stop. They didn't have. There was no vision. Like there was, if there was a vision, they lost track of it because, like Sean was saying, like they took parts from all these other games and they slapped them all together, and there wasn't a lot of other like new stuff. But it's not just like, oh, there's nothing new. It's that the game it's not saying anything in terms of like your relationship to how you play this game. You're just going from one of these systems to the other, bouncing around. You're like, yeah, I recognize this. I did this in Watch Dogs, or I did this in Assassin's Creed or whatever. And it's all just feels like them like saying, okay, well, we got the Cyberpunk license. Are we going to make a game that feels like you're playing that tabletop game? And if they ever like started with that vision early on, it got lost somewhere along the way. And they're like, we just need to make the biggest, most ambitious open world game ever made. And I don't think you can make a game like that, period. Like that can't be your vision, to just make the biggest game. And it really feels like that was the mission statement here.
That's the saddest thing, because in this game, while there's so many things that try to push you away from playing it, from bugs to game breaking glitches and all the stuff that happens, what they nailed in here, and it shines through in these brief moments that would be so much better if the game was fully complete, is the development of the characters, the writing, and the relationships you can build within Night City. The genuine conversations I was having with characters, depending on who you choose the start, depending how you speak to them, how you alter different situations, really does make an impact and difference with certain characters later on in the game. And I won't spoil anything, but like you could do a lot by doing just random stuff and having legit conversations and planning stuff out. And I was surprised how deep those systems go, where they can lead up, and the side stories, and how well done some of them really are. and the writing is fantastic, and that's what they're great at. Like you play the Witcher games, like the writing in the Witcher is phenomenal, and that is in this game.